Back on the SportsMax zone in lane number 4, Ricardo Chambers in 5, Leighton Levy. Well, there were 3 Caribbean winners at the Gala Dei Castelli meet in Bellinzona, Switzerland earlier on Monday. Let's take a look at those. The women's 100 meters, maybe the biggest of them all, Thompson-Herah, 10.92, continuing her return to form. Langsicott of Great Britain, 10.99 in second. Gina Bass of Gambia in third at 11.12. Shashali Forbes, the Jamaican, finishing in fifth at 11.20. She then finished second over 200 meters. Shashali Forbes in a season's best 22.74, beaten by Tamara Clark in the half-lap event. All right, then there was also the men's 100 meters. Oblique Seville taking victory 10.01, beating the Commonwealth champion Ferdinand Omanyala of Kenya 10.04, with Akane Simbine of South Africa third in 10.13. The Canadian Andre de Grasse fifth in 10.18, and Ryan Ford of Jamaica, who was in the World Championship final, ending seventh at 10.28 seconds. And then the women's 800 meters, Natoya Gould putting a fine race together. Excuse me, Natoya Gould topping 1:57.53, a season's best for her, beating the American Addison Wiley 1:57.64, and Audrey Werro of Switzerland 1:58.13. The top 3 there in the women's 800 meters. Leighton Levy, of course, we can start nowhere else but the women's 100 meters and the performance from Thompson-Herah. 11 flat after the World Championship, where she only ran the relays, and now 10.92 in Switzerland.
Yeah, with 0 wind. So with a decent win of 1.0, that would have been at 10.85 thereabouts, or 10.87. The reality is that it clearly seems to me that Thompson-Herah is beginning to find her footing again. Maybe it's coincidental with the hiring of Shaniki Osborne as her coach now. So clearly there, in the last 6 weeks, we've seen progress that obviously wasn't there before. And it's a good move, it's a good sign of progress for Thompson-Herah. Let's see what happens now in the off-season when she has the ability to put some background work in and come back out for a new season. Perhaps Thompson is back to becoming her best, because we've seen the progress. You know, the British commentators at the last meet that she competed at were questioning the legitimacy of her 990 relay leg in Budapest. But we've seen it now that it's legitimate. They were wondering whether or not it was legal based on the 11 flat that she ran. You know, she was coming from a running start, so 990 is not that out of the realm of possibility. But this 992 is very encouraging. 1092, sorry. It's very encouraging. And we just hope that she continues to get back to the Elaine Thompson that we all know and love.
So I'm not a big fan of post-championship track and field, right? And I think I've said this before, definitely said it last week, that generally for me, once a global championship has ended, there's not much that gets me excited. But I have to believe that this part of the season, for someone like Thompson-Herah, is more important than it would be in any other year, given what has happened in 2023.
Absolutely, and when you consider the fact that she did say that her background season was uninterrupted on multiple occasions because of injury, so she didn't have that base coming into the season. So what we saw at the National Championships in July was not really surprising. We spoke about it here on the zone. So now she's had an opportunity the last few weeks to put in some work, to get some of that work that she didn't have in the off-season. And clearly now, healthier than she has been, she's beginning to produce results. So as you mentioned, it's very important, very critical now for her to continue progress. We don't know how many races she has left before the end of the season. There are not that many races left before the end of the season. And so it's been interesting to see what she does between now and whenever she decides to put an end to that season and then go back into background work. But clearly there have been signs of progress, and that's very, very positive. And she obviously must be feeling a lot better. We saw that today after the race. She was smiling. She felt, you could see the confidence oozing again. Yeah. And that's probably the first step that she has to take to get back to being the best.
Is it just me, or has she looked a lot happier? Not just since Worlds, but from the start of the World Championships. A lot of the images I've seen of her, she looks to be in a good place.
Well, if you're coming from a point where you're thinking about quitting, to a point now where you're feeling like, you know, like who she used to feel like. A woman who's run 10:54, a woman who's run under 10:7 4 times. You know, somebody who's won a double Olympic title. She's now beginning to feel like the woman who's done all these things. And of course, as we know, she brings her best at the Olympic Games, which is just next year. So maybe she's beginning now to feel like, hello, we're getting there. We're getting back to being who we want to be. And obviously, that's something that obviously has to make her feel good.
Yeah, two other Jamaican winners in Switzerland today. One of them, oblique Seville. And let me tell you, Leighton, I am ecstatic to see oblique Seville competing outside of Jamaica and the United States of America. I think, actually, this is the first time outside of a global event, Tokyo 2020, Eugene last year, and Budapest this year, that he has competed outside of the USA or Jamaica in his senior career. I'm not sure I actually made the point, but one of the things I noted following his World Championship performance is that he hadn't competed on the Diamond League circuit. He hadn't done World Continental Tour gold meets. And I genuinely believe that those experiences can help him to perform better in major finals. So it was good to see him out there today, and it was good to see him getting a win.
Absolutely. And one of the things is, and given the fact that he finished fourth at the World Championships, you would have thought that he would have been invited to a couple of these Diamond League meets. Huh? The problem is, I think, maybe his coaching staff, knowing his issues with injuries, wanted to give him enough time to recover from the World Championships so as not to risk any injury going into the off-season.
Which is fair.
Which is fair, to give him an opportunity to then really go into the off-season injury-free and be able to train as well as they would like him to. So this meet today at 10:01, very encouraging again. And of course, just over a week now since the World Championships, an opportunity to get some rest before his next competition. So, very positive there on his part as well.
And you spoke about his coach, just to make a quick point. He's, of course, coached by Glenn Mills, who is also the coach of the World 400 champion, Antonio Watson. And they have ended Antonio Watson's season, which I think is a very smart move as far as I'm concerned. And it's good to see that Seville is out of the circuit and competing, because I love that as well. But one thing I know about Glenn Mills is that he's always going to put the health of the athlete first. And so I think you make a pretty good point there. Natoya Gould winning today as well, 157.83, a season's best for her. Can be frustrating if you're a Natoya Gould fan, because when you think about how badly she got the World Championship semi-final wrong from a tactical standpoint, and maybe overcompensated at the last Diamond League, but she got it right today. Yeah,
obviously, and again, it's frustrating because you know what she's capable of. 156.15 national record. She's 157.53, probably wouldn't have gotten her on the podium in Budapest, but it would have got her to the final. And she probably could have pulled her to a season best beyond this had she got there. But as you said, there's something about her not being able to execute a proper strategy in these championship meets. She runs well on the circuit. Ever since she got into the Diamond League, I think it was in 2018, she's run well in the Diamond League, but she's never been able to campaign at major championships well. And that's maybe something for her and Coach Mark Elliott to sit down and probably have a proper strategy about what works best for her, and something that she'll be able to execute consistently for her to do better. I mean, it's not like the window is closing rapidly, because we've seen 800-meter runners go up into their 30s. She has an opportunity for the next 2 seasons at the Paris Games and, of course, the next World Championships in Tokyo. So maybe they have to sit down this season and look at what works best for her in terms of that strategy that she will stick to regardless of the competition, and allow her to be at her best. Because 2 minutes, what was it, 2:02
2 flat something.
Yeah, but that's not a time that she used to run those times when she was at LSU. So she's well past that now, and it's very frustrating and unfortunate for her that she keeps running these poor strategic races at major championships. But good win for her again today, though. 157.53, a season's best. It's a good time to bring her season to a close.
Yeah, of course, 3 winners in Switzerland today from an English-speaking Caribbean standpoint, all of them from Jamaica. Also 3 winners Caribbean-wise at the Wanda Diamond League meet in Xiamen, China on Saturday. Let's have a quick look at those, starting with the men's 110-meter hurdles, won by the reigning Olympic champion Hansa Parchment of Jamaica, 12.96, a meet record and season's best, just 2/100th of a second outside his lifetime best of 12.94. Daniel Roberts, the World Championship bronze medalist, finishing second at 13.03, and Grant Holloway, the World Championship gold medalist, ending third at 13.12. A win in the men's 400 meters as well. This one going to Kirani James of Grenada, 44.38, a meet record for him. Same time as the World Championship medalist Quincy Hall of the USA, and Rasheen McDonald, the Jamaican, finishing in third at 44.82 seconds. Zandrian Barnes in 8th at 45.29, a second Jamaican in that lineup. And the women's 400-meter hurdles produced a 1-2-3 finish for the Jamaicans, led by the World Championship bronze medalist, 2-time World Championship bronze medalist now, Rachel Clayton, 53.56, a meet record. Antoinette Knight, the World Championship finalist, 53.87, and another World Champs finalist, Genevieve Russell, 54.01, taking third position in that race. I want to start with the 110 hurdles, Leighton, because, you know, the way that race went on Saturday is a lot more of how I expected the World Championship final to go. And as you know, I had predicted Hansa Parchment to win the World Championship, and there was just something that I saw in Parchment in the build-up to the World Championship that said to me he was in about 12.95 shape. He was in personal best shape. And he produced it on Saturday, and once again put under tremendous pressure. Grant Holloway folded.
Yep, and it's typical, and it's one of the reasons why I was upset that Rashid Broadbell didn't get to the final. But I'm going to read something to you that Thompson said after the race. He said, "Great race, excellent conditions. I would have wanted to have run that time in Budapest, but I suppose it wasn't time yet." So maybe, you know, that time came one race too late for him.
Yes.
But obviously it was a great performance. And one of the challenges that Hansen faces is that he's that massive frame.
Yes.
And it takes him time to unfurl and then get his legs going, because he was last over the first hurdle.
Yes.
But came through steadily and ran 12.96. If he can get a chance to work somehow to get up a little bit more and get his legs going a lot more quickly, he'll be almost unbeatable, because he closes like a train. And I think that given what we've seen coming into the Olympics, going into the Olympics next year, and of course the World Champions in Tokyo in 2025, I think if he can manage to be more consistent with that start, he may very well be an Olympic champion two times over, because he has the ability. There's no doubt that he has the ability. Yeah. It's just that sometimes it doesn't work out for him because of the challenges that he has to deal with his physicality.
So I don't think he will ever be a great starter, right, Hansa Parchment? But in my opinion, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I've really been looking at it and thinking about it, and I'm wondering if he was a little too safe in the World Championship final. So yes, he doesn't get away well, but I don't think he was as aggressive in the World Championship final over the first half of the race as he was in that Diamond League on Saturday. Because the start in the Diamond League, in my opinion at least, was worse than the start in the World Championship final, and he still managed 12.96. Of course, you can debate conditions and all of that, but I felt his aggression allowed him to get to that 12.96, whereas in the World Championship final, he was a lot more patient. And yes, it's probably easier to do it in a Diamond League where there isn't as much at stake, but I just felt that it was there from the World Championship final. He probably didn't have the confidence to unlock it.
Well, he said it's a great, excellent condition. So I think maybe the conditions had something to do with it as well. Also in Budapest, well, I think one of the challenges that he had, I think he fell asleep in the blocks.
As he did on Saturday, though.
But I think his reaction overall was better than in Budapest.
Okay.
So I think you know, it's one of the challenges that I don't think he'll be able to overcome unless he somehow gets a way to fine-tune his brain to react a little bit more aggressively to the gun. If he does that, I think he'll be among the medals all the time. But, you know, as I said, it probably just came one race too late.
And we have to go to a break, but a quick word on Kirani James and his victory.
Listen, I am so happy for Kirani because we all know his talent. We all know the challenges that he goes through. He was very pleased with the performance on Saturday.
Yes.
But I don't know, he doesn't speak about his issues, but I do believe that Harvey Glance's passing in July did have an impact on his performance at Worlds. And unless he says otherwise, that's going to be my belief. And I think because when you consider that Harvey Glance actually used to coach him at school, then came back out of retirement to coach him as a professional, they have a father-son relationship. Yeah. So I'm sure that he lost some amount of focus during the time leading up to the World Championships, given how close it was to the World Championships. Yeah. But I think now he's maybe coming to grips with the reality and decided, look, it's time to move on and move forward. And they ran a pretty great race on Saturday, and I thought maybe this is now him moving on into, I mean, it's still early days yet because it's only been July. Yeah. But I think moving forward, he has to move forward for his own career, and I'm sure Harvey Glance would have probably said that to him anyway before he passed. You have to move on, and maybe this is the start of that.
Yeah, with you on that one. That's it for Track and Field segment. We take a break. We'll be back with more after this.